Welcome to WHRO's Weekly Edition. I'm Jordan Christie.
And I'm Barry Graham.
We highlight the week's news and stories happening all over Hampton Roads. In this week's program, Ken Burns' newest documentary about the American Revolution debuted this week on WHRO TV. WHRO's Nick McNamara sat down with the filmmaker to discuss it.
Small nonprofit healthcare centers in the area are struggling to keep up with modern technology, leading to gaps that could threaten overall patient care.
We need new firewalls. We need better security altogether. We need new updated workstations.
Chesapeake native and NFL Hall of Famer Kenny Easley died last week. Easley played for Oscar Smith High in the 70s and spent all 7 of his pro years with the Seattle Seahawks. It's WHRO's Weekly Edition. Affordable Care Act subsidies are set to expire at the end of this year. WHRO's health reporter Yiqing Wang reports thousands of Virginians are facing premiums that could be double or triple what they pay now.
Elizabeth Wellington from Chesapeake says her monthly premium is jumping from about $100 to nearly 3 times that. She says she can't afford that even while working 3 jobs.
I think I am part of a large group of individuals who are kind of caught in the middle. We, quote unquote, make too much to qualify for state support, but we're not making enough to really survive.
Norfolk resident Beth Dreyer already lost her subsidies. Her monthly premium jumped from about $100 to more than $400. Alex Fella from local nonprofit City Work says data shows those who live in 3 low-income zip codes in Norfolk, Portsmouth, and Newport News are particularly vulnerable when subsidies expire because most have no savings or assets to fall back on. Yiqing Wang, WHRO News.
Virginia scientists released the state's first climate assessment. WHRO's Catherine Hefner says it's modeled after the national and global versions.
More than 24 academics across the state contributed to the report, led by the Virginia Climate Center under George Mason University. Professor Louise Ortiz says there's plenty of data about climate in Virginia. They wanted to pull it all together in one place and look at how conditions differ between the coast, mountains, and in between.
There is enough variability in the geography of Virginia and the populations that we thought we really needed to provide a more detailed view of how climate is changing here.
The report says Virginia faces 3 major climate hazards: rising seas, rising temperatures, and rising rainfall. Ortiz says he was surprised to learn how much extreme heat threatens to disrupt daily life.
It impacts, for example, the ability of transmission lines to carry electricity. It might affect how often we have to do maintenance on roads and railroads.
He hopes the report is a jumping-off point to address these issues. Catherine Hafner, WHRO News.
Norfolk's Housing Authority fired its executive director earlier this month. WHRO's Ryan Murphy reports no reason has been given for the dismissal.
The Norfolk Redevelopment and Housing Authority's Board of Commissioners emerged from a closed-door discussion about an unspecified personnel issue at its November 6th meeting and immediately did this.
Or in open session?
I'd like to make a motion that we terminate our executive director.
Nathan Sims, who had presented to the board earlier in the meeting, was not present when a majority of the board voted to fire him. No reason was given for his firing, and there's been no public announcement of the move since it happened. A spokesperson for the NRHA declined to comment on Sims' employment status. Sims was hired 2 years ago. He worked in a string of municipal housing agencies up and down the East Coast before arriving in Norfolk. Ryan Murphy, WHRO News.
Ken Burns' latest documentary series, The American Revolution, debuted this week on WHRO. Our Nick McNamara caught up with him during a visit to Williamsburg earlier this year.
What do you think looking back at the nation's founding tells you about where we are and where we're going as a country?
Well, there's always been divisions. They've been there from the very beginning. And the great concern was, what was the direction of the country going to go? Are we going to stay British? Are we going to put up with this stuff? Are we going to start a new country? What kind of new country is it going to be? Who we're going to include? Particularly at this time, we've been working on this for nearly a decade. We had no idea it would coincide with celebrations about the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration. We're excited by the possibility that by understanding a part of our history, a history that's sort of atrophied in not only our schools, but in our general collective consciousness, by reminding people that we have a shared history, that we get to reinvigorate the ideals that prompted the founding of the country.
As you know, at the time of the signing of the Declaration, America was part of this intricate transnational web of societies and religion and economies, and the trade of enslaved people as well. It also coincided then with this wave of revolutions around the network. As you look at the history of the time, how does the American Revolution compare to these other revolutions, such as in Haiti or in France? And how is it unique?
This is the most consequential revolution in the history of the world. It is the first of them. It's the first to proclaim the unalienable rights of all people. It is the inspiration for most of the other revolutions that will take place within this very complex geopolitical chessboard that involves many empires, British, Spanish, Portuguese, Dutch, and we come out of it taking what are at first complaints about not enjoying the rights of British citizens in England and sort of break them out into, as the historian Christopher Brown says in our film, natural rights. And if they're natural rights and it's the Enlightenment, all of a sudden you're talking about self-evident truths. And they apply to the French people as well as to the Haitian people as well as to people in India and all around the world. But it started here.
I think about this letter a lot from Thomas Jefferson to John Adams. I believe it's in 1815, and he's responding to a question about who shall write the history of the American Revolution, who can write it, and Jefferson responds, nobody, but that doesn't stop historians from trying. So I'm curious how you all take that and how you go about trying to do so.
The person closest to you has an aspect that is inscrutable and unknowable, even with all the proximity and all of the time spent together. So in a way, all history, all biography is failure because you can't possibly understand, let alone represent, all that took place. But we're sort of obligated, just as all of us are mortal, and you could take that depressing news and sit sucking your thumb in a fetal position on the floor, or you could go out and raise babies or tend gardens or make documentary films. So you've got to face the fact that it is, as Jefferson understood, an impossible task, but you have to do it. And for us, we would never use the word comprehensive. We would just say that we've spent a decade doing the best we possibly can to communicate this thing that was the invention of John Adams and Thomas Jefferson and a lot of other people. To respect not only their visions, but the visions of the ordinary people who actually did the fighting and the dying and the people who suffered, the loyalists who remained loyal, the native populations, but within the societies and on the edges of the societies, the free and enslaved and escaped black populations, women whose rights were not considered at the time of the Constitution, and tell a very complex story that has at its heart the military history that no one ever tells.
That was Ken Burns talking about his 6-part documentary series, American Revolution, now airing on WHRO Channel 15. Check WHRO.org for showtimes or download the WHRO Plus app to watch it on demand.
Still ahead on Weekly Edition, thousands of Virginia households missed out on food aid due to federal cuts. We'll learn the impact it had on them. But first, Virginia Beach City Council on Tuesday endorsed the outcome of the referendum in which voters supported a 10-district voting system. WHRO's John Doucette reports from the meeting.
The 10-1, as the system is known, has been used in 2 election cycles but isn't in the city charter, despite efforts to make that happen. Council will again ask the General Assembly to codify the 10-1. It may find more support in Richmond this time and help Virginia Beach move past years of controversy and court battles. The council vote was unanimous with 2 members absent. Councilmember Stacey Cummings campaigned against the 10-1 but supported the resolution.
There was vigorous debate on both sides, and at long last, the people spoke. This is the time to unite and implement the will of the people.
Councilmember Jennifer Rouse thanked colleagues and congratulated 10-1 supporters.
I celebrate with them and look forward to sending this off to the General Assembly, who will do the work of tightening it up, and then the work will continue to get prepared for elections in 2026.
John Doucette, WHRO News.
Jumping up to the peninsula, where one Williamsburg small nonprofit health center is struggling to keep up with modern technology. WHRO health reporter Yi-Ching Wang reports those gaps now threaten patient care.
Old Town Medical and Dental Center serves thousands of uninsured and underinsured residents each year, but much of its technology is more than a decade old. Grants coordinator Sarah Lewis says its outdated system slows appointments and limits how many patients the clinic can see. The issue became urgent after a ransomware attack that shut down operations in May.
We need new firewalls. We need better security altogether. We need new updated workstations.
Research shows rural and safety net clinics nationwide face similar tech gaps, which means slowed referrals and an increase in hospital readmissions. The center in Williamsburg is launching a campaign to raise $150,000 to update its technology. Yiqing Wang, WHRO News.
The Easy Pass on your windshield makes paying tolls easy, but the little machines have a shelf life. WHRO's Toby Cox has more from the tolls.
Roughly 18% of Virginia's Easy Pass holders have transponders that are outside the warranty periods for their battery. The battery in the standard Easy Pass has a 10-year warranty. The battery in the Flex model is warranted for 7.5 years. David Caudill with the Virginia Department of Transportation says transponders can work long after the warranty expires. How long a transponder lasts really depends on how much you drive through toll plazas. Before embarking on holiday road trips, he recommends making sure your contact information and license plate number on file are up to date in case the transponder fails.
If you don't have your license plate, what will happen is it won't recognize you as an Easy Pass customer and it'll generate a violation. That does come with additional fees.
Drivers can mail failing transponders to the Easy Pass Customer Service Center for a free replacement. Toby Cox, WHRO News.
The VA is making it harder for male veterans with breast cancer to get care and disability benefits. The agency says the Biden administration falsely classified men's breasts as reproductive organs. But cancer patients say they're caught in the political debate over gender ideology. Jay Price reports for the American Homefront Project.
Breast cancer, regardless of gender, is among several illnesses Congress declared presumptive in the PACT Act of 2022. That meant veterans who got sick after exposure to burn pit smoke or other toxins had a much easier time getting their VA claims approved. The Trump administration's policy change, which was first reported by ProPublica, went into effect September 30th. It requires men with breast cancer to not only document that they were exposed to toxins, but also to prove that those toxins caused the disease. The change applies only to men, not women.
And that's a real head scratcher.
Terry Ballinger, a veteran of the first Gulf War, was diagnosed with breast cancer last year.
Everybody in oncology is highly confident that male breast cancer and female breast cancer are virtually identical. They're identical in the way that they're diagnosed and the way that they're treated.
Ballinger filed his disability claim when male breast cancer was still considered presumptive. Even so, he needed a lawyer to get the VA to approve it. Ballinger says he was exposed to a wide range of toxins in the Army, including asbestos, depleted uranium, burn pit smoke, and the choking clouds from burning oil wells. With no family history or known genetic predisposition to breast cancer, he says his service-related exposures are the most obvious culprit.
I don't want to say it has to be, but if you start eliminating possibilities, you end up coming back to that.
In a written statement, the VA notes the PACT Act presumes service connection for cancers of the reproductive system, but says the Biden administration falsely classified male breasts as reproductive organs. Critics, including several Democratic members of Congress, say the change stems from President Trump's executive order that bans gender ideology in the federal government. That order says policies must treat men and women as biologically different. The members of Congress say the VA policy change distorts science for politics. Dr. Ben Park is a leading breast cancer researcher.
The vast majority of male breast cancer biologically is, in fact, reflective of the most common type of breast cancer in women.
And the tissues are similar, with one reason women have higher rates of breast cancer simply being they have more breast tissue. He said it's irrational to use semantics about gender to treat male and female breast cancer patients differently.
To not provide care for one group or another based upon their gender, to me, doesn't make sense. That would be like, let's not treat colon cancer in men, but we'll treat it in women.
Some studies suggest male breast cancer is more common among veterans than in those who haven't served. The VA says it diagnoses about 100 cases a year. Mike Partain is an activist who lobbied to make sure the PACT Act included people exposed to toxic water at Camp Lejeune. He was born on the base while his father was a Marine, and Partain later developed breast cancer. He calls the policy change disturbing.
Science is science, and to interject politics and especially what I call the gender wars that go on between the left and the right, it's an absurdity and it's a slap in the face to our veteran community.
He also said it adds to what he regards as a serious flaw in the law.
The PACT Act covers the veterans who were exposed to toxic chemicals overseas. It does not apply to the Camp Lejeune veterans or military veterans exposed here in the U.S., which is a major pitfall of the PACT Act.
In its statement, the VA said it will continue to provide care and benefits for male breast cancer patients who already receive them, as well as for new claimants who can prove a service connection. The Democratic members of Congress are asking the VA to reverse the new policy and be more transparent about benefits changes. I'm Jay Price reporting.
A nonpartisan state report issued this week says people who participate in education programs run by the Virginia Department of Corrections were less likely to be rearrested after release.
They also were more likely to find employment and earn a higher wage than those who weren't enrolled in classes.
Dave Cantor has more for partner station WVTF.
About 20% of people in VDOC custody take part in adult education, career training, or post-secondary programs, though as many or more were on waitlists for the programs. Drew Dickinson, an analyst with the Joint Legislative Audit and Review Commission, said lowering recidivism rates is one of the department's goals.
Despite these long wait lists, we found that DOC does not consider inmates' recidivism risk and assess educational needs when making educational program enrollment decisions.
The JLARC study was based on interviews with prison staff, incarcerated people, visits to 6 facilities, and the review of national data. Dickinson pinpointed instructor vacancies, frequent transfers, and a lack of connection with job opportunities as being among the issues Department of Corrections programs faced. But between 2022 and 2024, the number of incarcerated people who earned a GED increased from 117 to 544. Corrections Department Director Chadwick Dodson spoke following the presentation and agreed with a range of the findings, including the need for additional internet access. He said the department's education programming would benefit from additional funding to expand instruction areas. The report found funding per person had increased more than 22% since fiscal year 2019, when adjusted for inflation. JLARC indicated that the change can in part be attributed to a decline in the number of people in VDOC custody. I'm Dave Cantor.
Norfolk's recent Upcycle Festival showcased how to turn trash into treasure. WHRO environment reporter Katherine Hefner was there.
Sarah Sturzing with Keep Norfolk Beautiful says the event helps people rethink how to use all their stuff to keep more trash out of the landfill.
Upcycling is taking something that you already have and finding a new life for that.
Officials set up stations at Mary Pretlow Library in Ocean View to highlight creative ways to do that, like turning t-shirts into tote bags.
You basically just cut the sleeves off, you cut off the neck, and you cut strips on the bottom and you tie them together.
And composting paper coffee cups in your backyard.
So take off the little sticker label part and you can cut it up and then you can put that in your compost.
9-year-old Rowan used aluminum soda cans to make his creation.
I made a butterfly made out of scraps.
At other stations, people used scraps to make holiday cards, journals, and jewelry. Katherine Hafner, WHRO News.
Thousands of Virginia households missed out on food assistance this year due to federal cuts at a time of increased needs. The Virginia Center for Investigative Journalism at WHRO's Kunle Falaye reports.
The federal government cancelled more than £1.7 million of food aid purchased for Virginia, according to data obtained by ProPublica. These cuts included thousands of pounds of chicken enough to serve 6,400 households, a VCIG analysis shows. Virginia's 7 major food banks provide more than £170 million of food assistance annually. Demand has increased in recent months, officials say. Christopher Tan, CEO of Food Bank of Southeastern Virginia and the Eastern Shore, says the federal cuts meant less food going to local pantries.
It's often how our partner agencies that don't have funding for food acquire food. How do we then get them food through the charitable food system that isn't government related is quite a challenge.
The impact also extends to local companies. Federal cuts took away millions of dollars in grants that charities used to purchase supplies from local producers. Kunle Falai, the Virginia Center for Investigative Journalism at WHRO.
Chesapeake football legend Kenny Easley passed away last week. Easley, the collegiate and professional football Hall of Famer, was known for his incredible instincts and electric hits at every level of the game. WHRO's Lisa Godley takes a look at his legendary career.
They called him the Enforcer because whenever Kenny Easley was on the field, you knew it.
Sipe is back to pass. Fires one that's going to be picked off by Easley. He's on his way up the sideline. Might go all the way. They'll never catch him. Goodbye, Cleveland. Touchdown, Seattle.
A native son of Chesapeake, Easley was a standout as a quarterback at Oscar Smith High School, picking up All-State and All-American honors along the way. He was the first player in Virginia High School League history to rush and pass for more than 1,000 yards in a single season. As expected, he received scholarship offers from almost every major college program in the country. He chose UCLA, where he took on the role of defensive back. While there, he was named All-American 3 times. Easley, who also starred in baseball and basketball, was tapped by the Chicago Bulls in the 10th round of the 1981 draft. But that wasn't for him. That same year, Kenny Easley was drafted by the Seattle Seahawks in the 1st round. He would play for the Seahawks for 7 years, his entire NFL career. Easley was selected for the Pro Bowl 5 times and as a member of the 1980s All-Decade Team. In 1984, he led the NFL with 10 interceptions and was named the Associated Press Defensive Player of the Year.
You knew when Easley made a big play, a big impact play, whether it was a hit or pick or anything to kind of like change the tone of the game. Usually 45 was involved.
Kenny Easley is probably the first great defensive player. Speed, strength, savage hitter, a good nose for the ball.
There may not be a more intense player in the history of the Seahawks than Kenny Easley.
He was inducted into the College Hall of Fame in 1991 and the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 2017. And his number 45 was retired by the Seahawks that same season. Here's what he said at the time.
Be anxious for nothing, but in everything by prayer and supplication, with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. And watch what God can do for you.
Kenny Easley was known by fellow players as someone who left it all on the field.
When given lemons, you make lemonade, and you make the best lemonade that you can make. And that's what I did. That's the lesson in this.
Kenny Easley is survived by his wife Gail and their 3 children. He was 66. I'm Lisa Godley.
You've been listening to WHRO's Weekly Edition. We had help today from WHRO's Nick McNamara, Catherine Hefner, Toby Cox, John Doucette, Yi-Ching Wang, and Lisa Godley.
WVTF's Dave Cantor, Jay Price with the American Homefront Project, and Kunle Falai with VCIJ. Also Connor Worley, who produced today's show. A reminder that you can always catch full episodes on the Weekly Edition podcast feed.
You can get your news updates at WHRO.org and the WHRO Reports podcast feed. For all of us at WHRO and WHRV, I'm Barry Graham.
And I'm Jordan Christie. Have a great weekend.